So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Donna Miller, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Purse Power. Purse Power is working to help women use their massive purchasing power to drive positive change. We believe that if women who make 80% of all purchasing decisions would choose to buy from the companies that actively promote women and would do that in mass, and we could create a funding stream for better women's shelters in the process, that we could shatter glass ceilings and change lives. So that's what we're trying to do here at Purse Power. We have been doing these programs since the beginning of the pandemic. We've got about probably 90 episodes on our pursepower.com website. If you want to go check it out, we've had national leaders of all kinds come on and talk to topics that are of interest to female business owners and business leaders. And thank you so much for being here today. I think you're going to be terrific. I appreciate you making the time, Carmen.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Okay. So I'll do your bio and introduction, and we'll get into the questions, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So Carmen Miller McColl, no relation, is the co-founder and partner of Heartland Trade Enterprises and the co-founder and partner of Disruption Strategies, which I love that name.
Thank you.
That's very cool. Prior to forming Disruption, Carmen founded the Miller Spence Group, which is a full-service political consulting firm. Carmen has over 20 years of experience in consulting and business development. And of course, the business development side is of great interest to all of us.
Right.
Through her company, Carmen served an array of candidates and national party committees. She's also provided government affairs and business development consulting for non-political clients, including trade associations, corporations, and nonprofits, that's fantastic. So you've got both. You're a native of Oklahoma City, and you went to the University of Oklahoma.
Yes.
Yes.
Sooner.
There you go. That's my adopted state. Yes, my kid.
Yeah.
Two of my kids went to OSU, but
it happens.
What?
It happens.
It happens. I know. Well, when the kids were 4 years old, I've got triplets. When they were 4, I took the two boys and I put one in an OU jersey and one in an OSU jersey, and I took a picture of them together, hugging each other.
That's great. Well, that's Oklahoma for you.
There you go. It's true. It's true.
It is.
All right, Carmen will be sharing her insights on breaking through regulatory barriers and operating at full speed. Okay, all right. To begin, let's get to know you. Okay, could you give us a little bit of your backstory? Who are you? How'd you get here in your career?
Yes, absolutely. As Donna mentioned, I've mainly been on the political side of things, and I've done mainly on the federal side. Federal campaigns. And so in raising money, which is important, obviously, you can't do anything without money. And so, I've done, so many different things in terms of that, like working with national party committees, et cetera. I've worked with nonprofits. But then there was just a point where, after so long, there was just kind of a pivot time for me where I just wanted to do less politics and get more into, more of the business development consulting side, which is why my partner and I formed Heartland. And so we've done procurement, but we've pivoted a little bit from procurement to more putting deals together with major corporations, mainly in the Asian market. Helping companies come to the US. That's kind of what we're working on right now. We have a few major manufacturers that want to move here, and we're trying to get them in Oklahoma, actually, which would be really good because I like to promote my home state. And there's a lot of businesses actually moving to Oklahoma with, the cost of living, tax incentives, et cetera. So we work a lot with the Department of Commerce to try to make that the State Department of Commerce, so they find out their, all the incentives. The Commerce Department has been really great. And so that's interesting. But we did form Disruption more as, we don't lobby, but it's more just in case our clients need help on maybe the regulatory side. If they want to influence and, with a certain issue, that type of thing. That's why we formed Disruption.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I used to be a head of HR at Cox, and I remember the days of going to the Corporation Commission and some of the competitive landscape. And it's important. You don't understand how important it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really important, but it's also, so many, especially if they're international corporations, they don't know all the regulatory barriers coming to the US, both on the federal and state side. So we try to help them with that.
Help them navigate it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right. So tell me, your expertise obviously is in government affairs and business development. Can you talk more about how you do what you do? So I hear some of it.
Yeah. So, I've never, again, I'm not a lobbyist, but on the government affairs side, we do help clients with issues. We try to educate rather than lobby specific bills, or, because we have to be really careful about that, because we do not want to, register as a lobbyist. So it's more helping on the issue side and making connections to people that can be helpful to them.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I do that too, all day, every day.
Yeah.
Okay. So First Power is apolitical. You've done some fundraising for political candidates. What should business owners on both sides of the aisle understand about that process and its implications for business? And you and I were talking about women specifically.
Well, yes, and I would actually like to touch on that. So, unfortunately, most women do not give politically. No matter what side of the aisle, it's mainly men. And so it's, a bunch of men with a seat at the table, and there's, few women. And so it's really important to engage politically, create those relationships with your, legislators, congressmen, et cetera. But it's also important to, your organization is called Purse Power. It's important to get your checkbook out and, get engaged with your checkbook.
Yeah, no, gosh, I really had not made that connection. I really hadn't.
Yeah.
I'm not a very political person, so I wasn't really focused on it.
And unfortunately, a lot of women, they're political, they have opinions, right? But it's engaging in the political process that's actually really important. So more women have that seat at the table and maybe can change the conversation.
And I know this is going to seem like 101 kind of stuff for you, but to me, how would I engage? So let's say that I wanted to, how would I go about doing that?
So, it's really important to be educated about who's running, what offices, and think about your business, so for instance, it's always important to get in front of like chairmen of committees that, are making decisions that affect your business. If you're in financial services, engaging with, people, that are on these committees. And then it is important to write checks and start those relationships, because you never know when you're going to need it.
Yeah. So the people on committees, if we were trying to influence them, let's say that there's something coming up that's going to impact our business. How do you go about doing that the right way?
Well, I mean, it's really meetings, right? So I'll just give you an example. So, like the marijuana business, for instance, there's been a bill that has been in the Finance Committee, the Senate Finance Committee, for banking. And so right now it's a cash business for people. And so anybody that does business, if it's fertilizer or whatever, they actually cannot deposit that money into a bank because of federal law. And so it's important to, get in front of the Senate Banking Committee members, if that affects you, just to say, hey, this is really important because these things are dangerous. We need to be able to deposit money in a federally insured bank and not have it seized, et cetera. So that's just like one example. And so it's just knowing what legislation's coming up, how's it going to affect my business, and then start making those meetings and getting in front of people. And you can go, to the official offices, and, just start, and then you can start engaging, hey, do you have any fundraisers coming up? Will you put me in contact with your political people, that kind of thing. And then you can start engaging on the political side.
The other thing I found in going to the very few events I've gone to, there's key people there when you go, right?
There always is. Yep.
Yeah.
There always is. And,
Okay.
people, a lot of businesses, executives, they give on both sides, because they want to it be impactful and affect change because, some of these decisions really affect your bottom line. And some of the regulatory stuff, it really affects how you do business. And so it's so important to engage with legislators, some of the departments, and just start making those meetings.
Well, the other thing I've heard is you want to do it before you need it. Like start building
That's
the
right.
relationship, getting to know them well before something's going to come up you want to talk to them about.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't express how important it is to really create those relationships and maintain them. Relationships is it's just one of the key points in terms of how do I get my message across? How do I let these people know how this will affect my business? Because sometimes if the legislators don't know, they're, because not all of them are, as educated on issues affecting businesses as you might think. And so it's really important to tell them, hey, this will really affect me, and this is how it will affect me.
Right. The other things I've heard is that they care most about the people that can elect them. You know what I mean? They're going to listen the most to them. And also that so few people engage that even like 6 letters from their constituencies means, oh my God, people really care about this.
Yeah,
right?
That's absolutely true. But it's, even if you're ideologically different than the person that you're going to meet, you can still engage them, tell them your points of view, what is happening to your business. And it's really, really important to reach across the aisle and to, just go meet with different people, both sides. And, that's truly how to affect some change.
Oh, thanks. Good then. Well, somebody told me that the women, and I don't know which house is doing it, but they're coming together for dinner like once a month or something as a way to reach across the aisle.
There's a number of congresswomen that meet, and I think they do it on the Senate side too. So they, which is great because that needs to happen a lot more. And it's Democrats, it's Republicans, and I don't know, I can't remember if it's weekly, but they do meet quite often. And it's important to have those relationships when legislation comes up. So it's great they're doing that. And I'm glad it's, the females that are starting to reach across the aisle.
Me too. Okay, so if we want to better understand and capitalize on government opportunities, whether it's funding or revenue generation or whatever, what should we do? Do you know what resources are available to help us?
So my thoughts on that, I mean, I'm sure everybody, knows about some of the federal programs, et cetera. But it's really important to engage your state Department of Commerce because they know a lot of things that are coming down the pike, both with federal funding and then state funding. And then, here in Oklahoma, for instance, the governor has a discretionary fund that he can help businesses with. And so, meeting the governor and starting that relationship, those types of things. But I think for a state specifically, having a relationship with your Department of Commerce is really, really helpful.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. So our customers have various business beliefs, political beliefs, and it's very divisive in the country right now. Companies obviously have to be very careful not to alienate potential customers. Do you have any recommendations on how to do that effectively?
Yeah, I mean, the data is actually really clear on this because there's been a lot of polling about it. Consumers do not like corporations getting involved, and not involved, but making political statements that maybe they disagree with, because then they have to decide, well, do I want to support this? Do I want to support this company? And so it's really best to be neutral and not make those huge political stances. You can have some conversations, without making a press release about something, because then it's, this country's pretty divided right now. And so it's just important to have a, kind of a neutral stance on things, and maybe not wade in.
And maybe not what?
Maybe not wade in. I mean, don't,
okay.
it's just So we've seen it, over the past couple of years, corporations making these huge political statements that then alienates people. And so consumers don't want them to. They're just like, keep it to yourself. Let me just buy your products and use your services. We don't care that you guys think this. So I would say stay out of it as much as possible.
Stay out of it. Well, I mean, several companies have lost significant business because they have waded in. And then you get your employees who want you to wade in. Some of these big companies.
And that's tough. That's really tough, especially when you have, there's a lot of younger employees that have become, they're kind of activists, which is good. But as a corporation, it's important to really try to stay neutral. You guys go do what you want to do on your own time. If you want to be a part of that cause, that's great. But we have to really stick to our business model.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of angst and discussion and changing going on about that. I think they went too far one direction and now they're going, oh my God.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's happening. And then you have activist investors who are really pushing, specific issues. And so, it's tough, but, I think if corporations can just remain neutral, let their employees be parts of causes, that's great. And they should encourage that. But in terms of making big statements that are going to alienate a bunch of people, you're going to lose customers, it just, I wouldn't do it.
No. Very interesting. All right. So are there any tools or techniques used in the political fundraising world that might translate over to business owners generating business?
Yeah. So, a lot of fundraising, of course you're doing cold calling and all of that stuff, but, my consulting business, when I had the Miller Spence Group, my model was create relationships and maintain those relationships. Don't burn any bridges unless you're ready to just napalm it. But, try to, there's going to be people you may not like dealing with, but you have to deal with. And so, just maintaining those relationships and that goes a long way because, honestly, in terms of like my business now, I can use those relationships because I've maintained them. And so I think that's the biggest part of, because you never know if somebody's like, hey, I have this idea and that can expand your business. If you have all those relationships, you're networking, it's really, really important.
I so agree with you. I really agree with you. So every time I meet people, I try to figure out who do I know that could be helpful to you or that you could be helpful to and try to connect people with each other.
Yeah, it's really, really important. Because one day you might need something they have or vice versa. So it's the relationship side of it is really, really important. Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more. I actually thought about doing a networking course to try to teach people how to do it effectively and have the kind of network that they need to build their businesses. Okay, so let's see here, we talked about when and how we should try to influence our legislators. We did some of that. What is the most effective way to do it when money's tight? Okay, so if let's say we can't donate a bunch of money, then what?
Right. Well, I mean, and that's the case for a lot of people, right? They can't host a big fundraiser and raise $100,000 or whatever. Really, it's what I touched on earlier. It's starting to meet with your legislators, meet with people making those decisions, creating those relationships, saying, how can I help you? Those types of things, because that stuff goes a long way. It really, really does.
If our audience has any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat box and we'll try to incorporate them in the discussion here. All right. So given your vantage point, what keeps you up right now at night? What are the biggest things you see on the horizon in 2023? And then what do we do to prepare ourselves and our businesses?
Oh, yeah, it's probably what keeps everybody up, recession, inflation, cost of energy, all this stuff that's really affecting everybody, And in terms of business, sometimes I was talking to somebody the other day and, they've been through 2 recessions and like their business just craters. And so they've really tried to diversify what they do. So they're not just holding on to one revenue stream. And so it's kind of important to be able to pivot a little bit when things start going badly.
Absolutely. I mean, from what I understand there, I don't know if somebody was saying 7 revenue streams. I don't think that's correct, but I mean, it seems like, yes, you've got to have lots of different places where revenue's coming from, and it needs to be counter-cyclical. Like if like, for example, in an HR consulting capacity, which is what I've done much of my career, on the one hand, you get recruiting and hiring and staffing up, right? On the other hand, you've got outplacement and reductions in force. I mean, if you cover both those things, no matter what's going on in the marketplace, you're okay. You know what I mean?
That's right. It's really, really important
to counterbalance it. Okay. All right. Well, okay. So I'd like to know, coming out of this, what are the most important things you want our audience to have gained from listening to you? Top 3 learnings.
So one is back to relationships. Creating a diversified group of people that, you can trust and can reach out to. That's really important because I bounce ideas off people all the time and get new ideas like, oh, hey, maybe we should pivot over here. So relationship building is key. And then engage our leaders in this country. More women need to be engaging because they're not, unfortunately. And so, but we need to have that seat at the table. And I just encourage everybody to start creating those relationships, even in the local level, the state level. It's much easier, in a state level than the federal stuff, but you can still start trying to make those relationships.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. Wow. Okay. How about 3 actions you want us to take?
3 actions. Again, build your relationships and maintain them. That's really important. Try not to burn bridges because you never know when you might need somebody. And engage politically and reach across the aisle. That is really, really important. I think sometimes we all think, well, this is what I believe, so I'm going to go to this person because they believe it. But it's really important to engage the other side to say, hey, here's some things that, it really impact my business. I know ideologically, they might be different, but really working across the aisle so you can change the conversation is very key.
It is key. Well, it's so, again, I grew up in HR and the whole diversity discussion, right? It's harder to make a decision when you've got a diverse group, when everybody's different and they're coming from different places and they have different experiences, but you get better decisions.
You do.
And so, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think when we talk to our echo chambers and that's all we hear, we kind of are missing half the information, right?
Right. And, most people are reasonable. Of course you have people that are extreme and it's difficult to maybe make some changes, but most people are reasonable and will listen. And you can have a conversation with, even though they might have different views than you do. But it's really, really important because that's where real change happens.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right. So if people were interested in learning more about you or what you could help them with, can you give us some little information about contacts? And then, what kinds of things you actually could help them with as small business owners? Go ahead.
Yes. I mean, certainly, if they're having trouble with issues, if they need help making connections, that type of thing, that's what we do all the time. Again, we don't lobby issues, but we can help connect you to the right people that might be impactful for you. That's kind of, we do on a daily basis. So that would be one thing. And probably a really major thing. So, that's a big thing in terms of what our business does. But if there's an issue that you might need help with in terms of, how is this impactful? What do we need to know about this bill coming up? Those types of things. We're also helpful in that area as well.
Okay. So
And
it's
then in
interesting.
terms of contacting me, you're welcome to send out my contact information. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. Well, just go ahead and say your email, would you?
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
we have.
It's Carmen, Carmen at millerspence.com.
Okay. All right. Very good. You know, the thing that you brought up, I've heard other people ask about in the past is the monetization of their network. So it sounds like your consulting firm is sort of doing that. Can you talk about that?
So in terms of
when you're connecting people, is there monetization in there, or you're just helping people connect to each other?
I'm really helping people connect to each other, but sometimes like the businesses we work with, if we're connecting them to the Department of Commerce, they'll do a showcase, they'll put a package together if they want to move into the state, that type of thing. So there is some monetization to it. But a lot of it tends to be sometimes issue-based. But there can be that aspect of it as well.
Okay. Yeah, just curious, because I know we've had people bring that up before. All right. Okay. Any final words?
Get involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really important. Yeah, it's really, really, really important for women to engage. And if you don't know how, reach out to me. We can brainstorm, but certainly engaging, because we just have to have more women at the table.
I really had no idea that women weren't donating to the candidates. I did not know that. And your point about we need to use that purse power too is dead on. And I had no idea it was a gap. I didn't know.
Yes. So it's just, it's when you're at a fundraiser and it's mainly men and there's not a lot of women represented, that's kind of a problem. And so we all know that female involvement is important, because we have a different perspective sometimes than men do. And so we need to bring that perspective to the table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. This has been highly educational. I appreciate it. Thank you for making the time to speak
Thank you
with us
so
today.
much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So let me go ahead and close up here. So I just want to let everybody know that we do a monthly networking event, the fourth Friday of the month, and we just get on and network with each other. So that's on the 27th. Purse Power is working with McLaren Cares to implement a program that allows underrepresented people to get access to high-paying technology careers. We're working on that right now. So if you know of anyone who has a need for technology talent and can't get it filled, we've got a way to get it filled and do great good in the process, where we're helping these people that haven't had chances to get access to these terrific careers. So please let me know if that's of interest to you. If you want to support this program, please go to pursepower.com and let's share the journey and buy us a cup of coffee. We'd appreciate it. And then please do like and share our social media pages. Let your friends know about it. And we hope you can join us. So I post the show for the Friday every Monday, and you can go there and register for any program. And then again, we do put our videos up online. We get them out on LinkedIn. We have a lot of people watch them after the fact. So thank you again for being here, Carmen. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Of course, of course. And please remember, everybody, purse power, we have it. Let's use it. Take care. See you next Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.